Education is a critical weapon against insecurity and poverty. Those were the words of Nigeria's former president, Muhammadu Buhari, a reminder that education goes beyond teaching and learning. It is a pillar of national transformation. Welcome to Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television, the program where we unpack the issues shaping Nigeria's education landscape, spotlight innovative solutions, and engage voices that matter. I'm Matthew Ogunswada. Today, we delve into two critical developments shaping Nigeria's education landscape: the rising wave of school abductions and the federal government's push to strengthen national values through a new national heritage and citizenship studies curriculum. Let's begin with our first conversation. Nigeria is grappling with renewed security concerns following a wave of coordinated school abduction in parts of the north. First, on November 17, 2025, gunmen invaded the government girls' secondary school in Kebbi State. The attackers killed the vice principal, Azan Makuku, and abducted at least 24 female students. Barely 4 days later, on November 21st, another armed group targeted St. Mary's Catholic Primary and Secondary School in Niger State, kidnapping 303 students and 12 teachers. The Christian Association of Nigeria, however, reports that about 50 of those abducted students later managed to escape and reunite with their families. These incidents mark a worrying resurgence of school-targeted violence in Nigeria, echoing the 2014 Chibok abduction of over 200 schoolgirls by Boko Haram. In swift reaction, President Bola Tinubu has directed the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, to immediately relocate to Kebbi State to oversee rescue operation. The president has also ordered the withdrawal of police officers attached to VIPs, deploying them to strengthen national security. Meanwhile, state governments across Niger, Katsina, Plateau, and Bauchi have ordered the temporary closure of several schools to prevent further attacks. The international community is also weighing in. The United States, through its official ex-handle, condemned the abduction and urged the Nigerian government to intensify security measures, particularly to protect vulnerable communities, including Christian populations. As this incident continues to raise alarm, educationists are calling for urgent and coordinated action from both government and school authorities to safeguard learning environments nationwide.
There's a difference between kidnapping and adopting. So if you are saying kidnapping, we can say the role of the school by sensitizing the students, making sure their school have perimeter fencing, gating of the school, and every other thing. That is for kidnapping, no? But when it now comes to mass adoption, I think our government should live up to expectation. We leave that to the government.
Government should give out more security personnel to different schools, and schools should equip the students with self-defense, knowledge of self-defense, how to escape when there's fire, how to escape when there's any situation. So give them the right knowledge for self-defense while providing enough security so that they wouldn't even get across to the children in the first place.
See banks. You see that the kind of security guard they have, they are trained. Can schools also have the same? Can we so much put importance to things like security? And for the government, they have so much work to do. But it starts from that grassroots, the schools. Even if the government is not coming to intervene, there is something they can do. And if they can get it correctly and the government can just support, I think everywhere is going to be fine and security would be top-notch.
They should spend more on their security. And also, government should assist the school owners. They should assist the school owners to tighten up the security of our nation.
If the issue of insecurity can be rightly addressed, I think it will automatically curb the issue of adoption and some other thing relating to that.
Schools should minimize the roaming about of students, and the government should make the security more tight.
Now, joining me to discuss this is Waziri Innocent, a teacher and education research officer at Ubungo International. And I also have Samson Ajibade, who is a criminologist and a security researcher. Good afternoon, Samson, and thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Hey, good afternoon. It's a pleasure joining you.
Thank you so much for coming on board. We are very glad to have you join us. Okay, so given the back-to-back abduction in Kebbi and Niger State, What do these incidents reveal about the systemic gap in Nigeria's school security architecture, especially in rural and semi-urban communities?
Okay, thank you. Beginning with what you said, the first expression, you said back-to-back abduction,
Yeah.
which happened in Niger and even in Kebbi State. A back-to-back abduction focusing on children, focusing on women, focusing on the poor and helpless citizens. This tells a lot about our security architecture. When there is uneven distribution of protection and security, access to modern tools isn't just the problem, but unequal distribution of these security assets. It shows the concentration of security architecture to protect just a class of citizens, a class of citizens or a class of people. It shows that the security and policing in Nigeria is not community oriented. This affects our response time. Because when this abduction took place, many a time these villagers they complain that even before before police officers, before military guys, before they came to those areas, it took hours. This shows our response time is nothing to write home about. So that is it. It shows that policing is far from the people who should be the beneficiaries of policing.
Okay,
Does
talking
it
about
mean
policing,
abductors
talking about
disappear?
policing and response, Samson, despite years of warnings and previous kidnapping, schools, particularly girls, boarding schools remain vulnerable. So you were talking about policing now. So what specific failure in surveillance and intelligence gathering and security coordination make these institutions easy targets?
Now, I've always emphasized that intelligence gathering is not just our problem here. Responding to intelligence.
Yeah.
After gathering your intelligence becomes so useless if no one responds to it.
Or
There were intelligence reports about the abduction, but no one acted on it. So it is not just about reconnaissance. It is not just about intelligence gathering. It is about the presence of those of state powers that will deter these criminals. It is just about the presence of a superior power that will deter these people. So after gathering intelligence, if there are no actions to back it up, it is as useless as anything. Knowing that, looking at let me begin with Niger State. Niger State is more than ×2 of the southeast region. What does that tell you? It tells you that in many of these areas, governance is not being felt. Governance is far away from the people. And even if the military or security guys were present, after a few days, they would leave. That was why I said that the concentration of intelligence in a particular place just to protect a class of people, one, and also acting on credible intelligence is all that matters. It is not about gathering intelligence. We've had report that, okay, we got a report, we got intelligence that these people will be coming around so time, and probably negligence. So would you now tell me that it's all about intelligence gathering? No, I've always emphasized it's not just about intelligence gathering, it's about acting on credible intelligence.
thank you so much. Talking about intelligence gathering and talking about the government protecting some class of people, before I come to Waziri, the President Bola Tinubu, has ordered the immediate withdrawal of police personnel attached to VIPs and then reassign them to national security duties. Do you see this as a meaningful shift in resource allocation, or is it more symbolic given the scale of insecurity in the country?
Well, I would say that it's to some extent commendable. But let me begin with this. Let me just say it's an analysis. It's not me saying it is commendable or not commendable. But from the order and declaration, I would say it's commendable. However, we need to note something, that is this the first time the government will be declaring or be ordering that the police or that IGP withdraws his men? That's one of the things we should consider here. Though people have argued that many of these orders were made by the IGP, that's the Inspector General. So that is the reason they were not too effective. Another one is this. In 2015, President Buhari ordered that order the IGP to withdraw his men from VIPs. The order was not fully obeyed. Now here is President Tinubu
Also
saying
doing the
that
same thing.
VIP police officers should be withdrawn from VIP. Let's wait if it's going to be effective. Now we also need to consider this. Over time, the NSCDC has been in charge of private security sector.
Okay.
That's why I'm considering this as a pathway to the decentralization of security, as a pathway to empower the private security sector. So if it's the duty of the NSCDC to provide security for private citizens, then we are now making the private citizens more effective. Let's also consider another aspect. Around or over 100,000 police officers are attached to VIPs. What does that tell you? And we have the NSCDC, the manpower of the NSCDC is between 80,000, 100,000. What does that tell you? Does it mean that we are withdrawing 100,000 police officers from these people and we are now mounting or placing the pressure on the NSCDC that has between 80,000 and 100,000 manpower? Now, this is another question we need to consider. This would make the NSCDC face its core duty, which is also regulation of the private security sector. So it means more investment, more training for the private security guys to reduce the burden on the Nigerian police and even on the NSCDC, which will now be protecting our VIPs.
Beautiful.
And we also need to note something that there is also that bureaucratic struggle. What do I mean by bureaucratic struggle? That is that rift between the police and the NSCDC. We have this SPU, which is the Special Protection Unit of the police, that is saddled with the responsibility of providing security for private persons. Now we are shifting the responsibility to the NSCDC. There's what I call shadow economy. The police is making billions of naira annually from this. It means that you are now diverting the money back to the NSCDC. The reason I said a bureaucratic struggle. Let's wait if this will be fully implemented.
Thank you
and
so
this
much.
will also help to develop the private security sector. Imagine billions of naira moving into the present private security architecture. Then there will be growth in the private security sector. And I'm sure that if it's the responsibility of private security guards to protect VVIPs, the rich, the VIPs would concentrate. They would want to invest more in their security, that is in private security around them. Then that will be an all-encompassing and all-round development in the private security sector.
All right. Good afternoon, Waziri. Thank you so much for joining us on Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. Waziri, you can please unmute your device. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Hi. Hello. Nice to have. It's nice to be here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are talking about security development, especially as it relates to tackling school abductions that has been happening in recent times. In your own view, what immediate on-the-ground action should the federal government and the state government take within the next 72 hours to prevent further attacks and stabilize affected school communities?
At the moment, we already have lots of schools around the country shutting down, even private schools in other states, just to avoid these incidents. So as much as it's a sad situation, we really want to commend that, because the safety of kids are very, very important in this situation. It is better to be safe than to find yourself in this situation. So we find schools rushing to write their exams way beyond the time, like 3-4 weeks ahead of time. We see inspectors not going around again to inspect because of the security. So it's already affecting the security, the education situation in the country. And schools, even in areas where nothing has happened yet, like in Kano, I live in Kano, and we already have schools closing down in Kano State. So these are the situations. So it's commendable that the government is trying to take steps. We have We also want the government to be proactive, just as Mr. Sampson mentioned earlier. What's the point of getting this intel if you cannot act on them? Before you even get the intel, let's have security personnel as strategic points to secure our schools, to secure our communities. We need those places to be secured. We don't want a situation where we're running away from school, we get to church, we're kidnapped in the church. We get to the mosque, we're kidnapped in the mosque. We get home, we're kidnapped at home. The life of everyone should matter. This should be the priority of every state government. How do we prioritize the life and security of every individual, both kids and adults? Because if anything happened to the parents, the child is indirectly affected or is even directly affected. So we don't want any situation where the life of anyone is truncated because of the insecurity of the
in the
country.
country. If we're talking about right to life is one of the fundamental human rights of citizens, and it has been enshrined in the Constitution of Nigeria, not only in the Constitution of Nigeria, but across the globe. Considering that attackers often operate across state borders, what kind of interstate early warning network should Nigeria build to detect threats before they escalate into kidnappings, banditries?
Truth is, we as a country, we are actually focused on medicine after death. Why not tackle this thing from its source? Why do we sit down to discuss how the government can rescue people that have been kidnapped? Why do we sit down to discuss about how to secure a school from kidnappers? Why not discuss how to stop the insecurity from its track? Let us not even have situations where kids think about at the age of a primary school kid, the security of his life should not be his priority. The child should be focused on how do I read, how do I become successful in my academics. But now we have kids learning how to escape from kidnappers. So let's not start talking about situations where we are trying to get intel, or that. Why do we even have insecurity in the first place? That should be the priority of the government. Let's not celebrate. Oh, we're it's, even though it's good, we're trying to get the people that have been kidnapped. We're trying to rescue them, but that should not be the conversation at this point.
Waziri, repeated attacks on schools are likely to have deep psychological scars on students. There's a little bit of background noise from your background, but repeated attacks on schools are likely to have psychological scars on students. So what specific management system should schools and ministries of education urgently put in place to support affected children? Because we have a lot of children that are affected, and of course I know that you work with child and child development.
Okay, so it's very important because I was actually following up with the KB girls situation, and I realized they were freed. The Minister of Defense addressed them, and they were let go, just like that. And I've been thinking, these kids have been with kidnappers, bandits, and terrorists for some days. What follow-up optics are we providing? Support are we providing? Psychological counseling? What are we providing to these kids? We just got them out, put them in a bus, and sent them back home. That shouldn't be right. We want a situation where we're providing counseling for the girls, we're providing health checkup for the girls to make sure they are all right health-wise. We're providing psychological support for them, mental health support. We don't want a situation where a child is saying, because I have experienced this, I don't want to go back to school. Because those are the follow-up situations we'll start having. We'll also start having parents that would say, so even the parents also need those psychological support, because we don't want, apart from the support, assurance also. We don't want a situation where parents are saying, we don't want our kids to go back to school because we don't want them to get kidnapped. Those are issues we have to start tackling as a community, as a government,
and as a nation. Beautiful. So at this critical moment, Waziri, what will be your strongest message to parents, teachers, government authorities, and community leaders on protecting the right to education during this escalating security crisis?
I believe Nigeria will get better.
Amen.
Nigeria will get better. I am a very strong advocate of Nigeria. I believe we'll get to a point where this is in the past. But instead of sending messages, I think our National Assembly needs to sit up. What do they discuss in the chambers? Our senators, our House of Rep members, what do they discuss? These are critical issues. These are critical times. We elected them. We entrusted our votes to them so they could provide us with succor in this present time. But you don't get them. You don't see them discussing these issues. You see them trivializing it. I saw a video of a senator saying, "Why would you withdraw men from the VIPs? That means they will kidnap the VIPs." Oh, so the life of the VIPs are more valuable than the lives of the ordinary citizens. These are the issues. We need to place as much value on every child as much as we place value on as high as the president. The life of a child in Sokoto is as important as the life of the president of Nigeria.
In Abuja or in Lagos.
Anywhere.
Definitely.
We don't want a situation where, just as Mr. Sampson mentioned, we don't want concentration of security in certain region and then other regions suffer. We want a situation where everybody is feeling the governance of the government and we are glad that things are happening. This is the kind of government we need. These are the kind of leadership we need in the country.
All right. Samson, what would be your message to government, parents, and of course community leaders on protecting right to education during this escalating security crisis? Samson, you can please unmute yourself. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay. The major one here, what we should consider here is the assurance of safety. First of all, the government should give the parents an assurance of safety. The government should give the children that assurance of safety. Now, I talk about bringing the police or security very close to the people, which is a very good one. Local areas or traditional rulers should organize within themselves that security, a vigilante security structure, at least to serve as first responders and to be permanently stationed in front of most of our schools. Because, you know, having soldiers very close to our schools could frighten the students. So the military guys could just be, let's say, 50 meters or 100 meters away, while the vigilante guys are just stationed, also armed, are stationed at the entrance of the school. So this is what they should do. Also, divisional police officers and even military officers that are stationed in these local areas should visit schools from time to time to assure the students, to assure the teachers of their safety. At least this will give them that some level of safety and assurance that, okay, they are safe. Traditional rulers, and also there's another thing. Even if these villagers, if they are to share intelligence with the law enforcers, many of them are cynical, like because of the distrust between the people and even the law enforcers. Now, when it now comes to intelligence gathering, that should be done majorly by the traditional rulers and even their chiefs. Because if there is, if the bandits or terrorists could track the communication something of a major of a brigadier general, then what tells you that if a villager, an other villager, reveals or tells or shares intelligence with the military, that villager will not be a victim. So what I'm saying is this: if intelligence is to be shared, the intelligence should be shared with traditional rulers and chiefs, and there should not be a platform where this intelligence can now be shared by traditional rulers with the government concerned. Also, even within this region, while now we have the Northeast Development Commission, I think we should also call for a joint or a regional security network, so that these borders, there are still porous borders in those regions, so that security would work hand in hand. Let me cast our mind back to the military era in Lagos State here, when there was crime, armed robbery, and everything in Lagos State here. General Mara came up with Operation Sweep, and it metamorphosed into RRS during the civilian government. Now, when you see the RRS on the highway, it's just like an elite arm of the police force that has been crafted or drafted by the Lagos State government. So each state should also come up with that structure. The rapid response squad responds so quickly to security threats. So these regions and even these governments should also come up with such an architecture, draft men from the federal government forces, train them, give them special packages or special treatment, special training to make sure they tackle your local security threats. So that is it.
Thank you so much, Samson. Thank you so much for a wonderful contribution. Waziri, thank you so much for your contribution. We'll touch the second conversation a bit. You're still watching Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll go into the second conversation of the day. Please join us again.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
This is African News on Voice of the People Television, where we don't just bring you the news, we bring you Africa's heartbeat, the policies that shapes our world, and the economy that determines our future. African News on Voice of the People Television. Stay with us.
On Edu Dialogue, we bring you fresh ideas and conversations shaping the future of learning in Nigeria and beyond.
Voice of the People, you can hear me now. My name is Patrick Doyle, and I wish that you continue to echo the voices of the people. Big up VOP TV.
My name is Suibifa Dokobo. Please keep watching VOP TV.
Hi, my name is Kwekumali Ikenna Onyekwena, and I am with the Voice of the People TV. Now, if you're looking for the veritable channel for information, politics, robust discussions, you don't need to go far. VOP has you. VOP will always have you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patrick Diabwa, aka Ibani Chuka, Amayanabo the Eagle King, and you are watching VOP TV. Stay with us.
Glad to have you back on the program. The federal government has inaugurated an 8-member committee to develop a harmonized national heritage and citizenship studies curriculum, which will soon become compulsory in all Nigerian universities. Speaking at the inauguration in Abuja, the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Lanre Issa Onilu, said the initiative is part of the Nigerian National Identity Project, the National Values Charter, and the Citizens Code frameworks designed to define the core values expected of every Nigerian. He explained that citizenship education is already included in primary and secondary school curricula, and regulatory bodies, polytechnics and colleges of education are also working to reintegrate the program. Representing the National Universities Commission, Florence Onmoha said the new curriculum will help universities produce patriotic, value-driven graduates ready to contribute to national development. Let me begin with you, Samson. What impact do you foresee for compulsory citizenship studies curriculum having in Nigerian universities? And how effectively do you think that this curriculum will bridge the gap between values taught in primary and secondary school and those needed at the tertiary level?
That we now have a concerned NOA, that's the National Orientation Agency. We now have an active NOA, at least, that is working towards actualizing its objectives. So my major concern here is not just implementing the national heritage studies and all, because we've had civic education, social studies, all of these things in the primary something, and even in secondary school, and even at the tertiary level, we have GST or GNS courses that are around civic education or citizenship education. Now, here is my concern. My concern is not just about coming up with these things, it is about having qualified people to teach them. When security was ravaging everywhere, they said they brought in security education into primary and secondary curriculum. And what happened? Did we employ or did we train our teachers on security to be able to handle these subjects? Did we have or do we have certified or professionals to handle these subjects? If these are professional subjects, and if they are not taught by professionals, it could have a negative effect
on the students. So how do you think lecturers can be trained or reoriented to effectively teach citizenship studies in a way that would engage students, based on what you've said now?
You said what?
How do you think lecturers should be trained or reoriented to effectively teach citizenship studies in a way that will engage students?
Okay, that's good. Now, if lecturers that must take this subject, they must be at least people who have background in probably history, in some of these social sciences or art courses, or who have publications on the topics that are discussed in this citizenship or national heritage studies. So if you should not just bring people who have no background or who have just little knowledge on the topic to teach those courses. So that is my concern. They should be trained and retrained.
Teachers should be trained and retrained. Thank you so much, Samson. Let me come to you, Waziri. We're talking about reintegrating citizenship education into the curriculum. How do you think this initiative would influence national unity, patriotism, and civic responsibility among young Nigerians? What are the challenges that you anticipate that universities will face in implementing this curriculum, and what are the reformations that you would like to see?
Thank you, Mr. Timothy. Now, the truth is, we had the last time I was on this program, we were talking about the new curriculum.
Yes.
The first question I would want to ask is, why was it not part of the new curriculum? All of a sudden, few months down the road, we are seeing new things added to the new curriculum. Mr. Sampson mentioned earlier, it is fine when you do these things, but then how do you intend to implement these programs? So yes, it is important. It's beautiful, because as a nation, we're going through a lot of struggles. We're going through a whole lot of struggles. You go online and you see the Hausas accusing the Yorubas of doing this. The Igbos are accusing the Hausas, and vice versa. It's just going around. Everybody feels we elect leaders based on religion and tribe, not based on competence. We cover up for our leaders when they are incompetent because they are from our tribe or from our certain region, or we have certain affiliations with. So if this curriculum can address these issues, Nigeria will be way, way, way ahead. However, did they consider any stakeholder? Did they consult with any stakeholder before putting out this curriculum? What steps do they want to use to ensure that this curriculum is properly implemented and we get the results? Now, when it comes to issues that we're going to face is kids learn from observing the environment. So while we're there teaching them to be patriotic citizens, to be good citizens, what are our leaders doing? What are the news carrying about our leaders? So you teach a child that you have to be you have to emulate the leaders, and then the next day on the news you're seeing the news headline saying a leader stole 30 billion naira. What are you doing with 30 billion naira? And you want my child to be like you. So while we're trying to implement this in our curriculum and in the university system, let's make sure that the leaders are also leading by example, so that we can have credible people who are pointing our kids to say, be like this leader, be like that leader.
Thank you so much, Waziri Innocent. And I would wrap up with John Maxwell quote that says, a leader is one who knows the way, shows the way, and of course, goes the way. Waziri Innocent, teacher and education research officer at Ubogo International, thank you so much for joining me on the program. Samson Ajibade, criminologist, security researcher, thank you so much for joining me on Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television.
Thank you very much. Nice having been around.
All right, we look forward to having you some other time. You are still watching Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television. We'll take another quick break now and return with top stories in Nigeria's education sector. Please stay tuned.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Join Moses, Chukuma and Fina on Voice of the People TM. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
Join us on People's Voice, where we amplify the voice of those that matters the most. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts with me. I am Xavier Udo. Weekdays, Monday through Friday, from 4 p.m. to 5. Don't forget, our voice matters the most. Let us come together and share our concerns. Thank you.
My name is Tao Familoni, and here's to VOP TV. Keep watching, stay tuned, do not touch that dial.
Arararara, my name is Made Kuti and you're watching BOP TV. Keep watching.
Welcome, my name is Zika Davis. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, boys, viewers, everybody, boys and girls. This is VOP TV. Do you know what that means? Voice of the People TV. You don't have a voice, don't come here. You better make sure your voice is heard.
Glad to have you back on the program. The Federal Ministry of Education has launched the Inspire Life Online Real-Time Classes Initiative, a national digital learning program aimed at expanding access to quality education for school children across Nigeria. This program, part of President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda, is designed to tackle long-standing challenges in the education sector, including teacher shortages and learning disruptions. Education Minister Tunji Alausa confirmed that full implementation has begun, covering all classes from Primary 1 to Senior Secondary School 3. Currently, junior and senior secondary school students can access live interactive sessions Mondays to Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. delivered by certified master teachers via Cisco WebEx. Junior secondary school students will study subjects such as mathematics, English, basic science, ICT, civic education, and agricultural science. Senior secondary school students will cover biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, economics, technical drawing, and more. The Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike has suspended Danlami Ayo, the Mandate Secretary of Education, following a false memo directing all government schools in Abuja to close down. In a statement, Lere Olayinka, the Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications to the Minister, said the memo signed by Aishatu Alazan is false and misleading and confirmed that no such directive was approved. Minister Wike also instructed disciplinary action against Al-Azhan and urged parents, students and school authorities to disregard the notice, affirming that the academic calendar remains intact. Security measures, including the resumption of Operation Sweep, have been reintroduced to safeguard schools and communities across the FCT. The Predicate STEM Foundation has continued its mission of empowering young minds as it holds the 6th edition of its annual Spelling Bee competition, bringing together brilliant junior secondary school students to showcase excellence in literacy and confidence. Speakers and teachers say the competition is about inspiring academic brilliance and preparing children for a competitive future.
The spelling bee is important to learners' growth because it helps them to build resilience. In the process of preparing for the actual competition, you're interfacing with new words, the process of the words, the origin of the word, the meaning of the word. So it builds your vocabulary and it also challenges you to give your best in whatever you do. So I think it's like a seed that you plant for every other thing you can do in the future.
We need more of this. Because these days you see those children are not really putting much into studying. There is a difference between studying and reading. It's when you are studying, you begin to get used to these words, spelling bees like this begin to come in. But these days you see the children, they don't want to devote quality time in studying again. And what do you get? You see students still battling with spellings. So many years back, I think I was opportune to interview a graduate who had a very serious spelling problem, despite the fact that she graduated from one of the best schools in UK. So you could find that definitely our problem was foundational. It was our secondary school because she had a primary and a secondary education here in Nigeria before heading for the UK for her first degree and a master's degree. But you see that spelling is still haunting her. So that's why we have programs like this can really help schools.
It's a way to extend the English education that the students are already learning in school. So when we have competitions like this, it's a way to test their knowledge and it's a way to stimulate their intellectual capacities so that they can know that what they are learning in school is not just a waste. And then they can do more, learn more, and become better, even to the society.
The spelling bee, this spelling bee is important because it helps to build the vocabularies of our participants. And also it helps to build their confidence. So coming out in public to spell might not be easy for some people, but with the opportunity they have here to come out, so it will build their confidence.
Competition is one of the ways that we can improve students' performance. Not only their performance, but also how they speak in the public. You know, most of the time, students normally battle with glossophobia. They are afraid of speaking in the public. And, you know, competition like this, we improve their public speaking capacity. So that is one about the competition. Then two, about the spelling bee, it helps their vocabulary development and also help them, in fact, it helps the reading too. You know, when a child can spell perfectly, he or she will not find it difficult to read.
The event features students from different schools, many of whom say the spelling bee has boosted their vocabulary, public speaking, and belief in themselves.
The benefit of spelling bee is to acquire more knowledge on those difficult words that you can't spell, and you can also learn from your mistakes if you misspelled a word. And what I learned from this spelling bee is that spelling bee is not just to see our downfall on a misspelled word, but it's also for us to gain and learn more about the words that are difficult.
The benefit of spelling bee because it helps to build a vocabulary capacity. It makes the student know how to spell well without fear, and it makes them become bold in front of crowds.
I read my dictionary, I read everything. They practiced me in school, my teacher. I was not that good in spelling, but my teacher helped me a lot.
The benefit of this spelling bee is to encourage eager minds and to show some students that they should not relent, that they should always try in whatever they are doing. They should not feel bad failing or misspelling some words.
With this initiative, we are sure that platforms encouraging literacy and healthy competition among young learners still remain active in our communities. And that's it on today's edition of Edu Dialogue on Voice of the People Television, as we reflect on today's conversation from the rising threat of school abduction to the federal government's effort to strengthen national security through a national citizenship curriculum. One thing remains clear: Nigeria education sector stands at a decisive crossroad, and protecting our schools and nurturing value-driven citizens are not separate challenges. They are twin pillars of building a safer, stronger, and more united Nigeria. For more update and engaging conversation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV, and across all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. If you witness news happening here, you would love to hear from you, so share your eyewitness report, event coverage requests, photos or videos with us on WhatsApp at 0814-606-4057. You can also reach our newsroom directly via email at news@vop.ng. I'm Matthew Ogunswada. Join us again next week as we continue to spotlight the ideas, innovations, and conversation shaping Nigeria's education landscape. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember that education is a critical weapon against insecurity and poverty. Bye for now.